the fact that I can be in the pharmaceutical industry and have an impact on real people and real patients' lives and helping them live longer, healthier lives is an enormous gift that I'm blessed to be able to be a part of that.
Welcome to Entree Real Estate, where we turn the complexities of real estate into clear, actionable steps for building generational wealth. I've invested into different types of real estate all over the United States, and I run a thriving real estate fund. Join me as we document the entrepreneurial journey of scaling businesses and transforming the lives of tens of thousands of people around the world. Let's turn your real estate dreams into reality. Buckle up, because this is the start of something truly incredible. My name is Devin Robinson, and welcome to Entree Real Estate. All right, what is up today? I'm so excited. We have on today's episode Chris Price. Christopher, which do you prefer?
Chris,
That's what I thought, my guy. I met Chris, gosh, I guess it's almost a year now. It was almost a year ago at the Raise Masters conference. One thing that's really encouraging for me is whenever I go to conference, typically, especially in the real estate space, I'm typically a minority, right? I'm like one of the only black dudes there. And so I always kind of look around, and then like whenever I see another black dude, I'm like, my people right there, you know? And so Chris and I connected at this conference, which granted, full of minorities. It's a huge Raise Masters conference, but honestly, in this, you see a lot of like Indians, you see a lot of Asians. You don't see many black people. So like, I'm like, my guy Chris, so went over and we ran into each other on the last night, literally the like 10 minutes before you left to go home because you had to go somewhere. And man, I just remember being super impressed by you, impressed by what you had built with your wife and your family and the things that y'all were pursuing, but at the same time managing having a full-time job and being in a career and actually being extremely successful. I was really impressed by just kind of all of that about you, and so it was really cool. I'm glad we got to connect. We kind of figured out that hey, there's a mutual kind of Greensboro connection there, and so we've kept in touch, which has been fun. And I've just been encouraged by you, watching you crush it, and continue to be consistent in a lot of ways. And honestly, man, I'm actually just impressed by what you've built and just your professionalism in all of it, and how you're just very detail oriented. You got everything in order. It's just really cool to see. And so that's just kind of a little bit of a personal intro. Typically, I like to let the people, I'd love for the people to hear from you, where you're from, and a little bit what you do, man.
yeah, to answer your question, man, I tell people my name is Chris Price. I'm a pharmaceutical executive by day and a real estate investor by night, and I take both of those things very seriously. As it relates to my pharmaceutical executive job, I have been in the pharmaceutical industry for over 20 years in
Wow.
various different roles in that time. And in that time, as things were going along, the same things that folks educate you on around, hey, you went to school, you go get a good job, and hey, by the way, now you need to start investing in that 401k. And then as time goes on, hey, now you need an IRA or some other type of vehicle to invest in. And my wife and I, we caught wind of that, and we're like, okay, this is what we'll do. I guess this is what everyone does. And we got into that journey, and what ended up happening along that journey was that we actually started to move on to building our family. And at the moment where we started to build our family, we had a condo that we were like, hey, let's not sell this thing, let's rent it out. And in that time of renting it out, we got exposed to some rental income, and being able to build, have these folks that were living in our condo at the time pay down that mortgage. And then at the end of the month, we would have a little extra change there that we were like, oh, this is pretty nice. So, fast forward, when we went going through the financial crisis of 2008 and all those things, we still kept that asset rented out. And when we moved
Nice.
into our single family home, and we kept that condo, we decided to start looking at real estate as a potential option for us to do some wealth building.
Nice.
And it was really just looking at things like turnkey rentals and maybe buying more single families and things along those lines. And we started exploring these different types of things, and ultimately we stumbled upon syndications, which I'll get into a little later. But yeah, I love to tell people about my journey as a pharmaceutical executive. Just one more thing, just to give you a little bit more about me for the audience here. And I know I'll go more into the real estate stuff later on. Look, I come from a background of athletics as well. I was a college football player at a small Division I school up in upstate New York called Marist College. I played football there. I was an All-American football player in my time there, and the relationships that we built there were just so powerful, and the school has meant so much to my wife and I, where we actually met, that this is something that has been so transformational to my life and to our lives, that I love to pay homage to them because of the impact that they have on us then and even still today. And so I know we'll talk a little bit more about that as well, but I'd love to add that little inkling there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. It sounds like we can go in a lot of different directions. The one thing that I love that you talked about is that you are a pharmaceutical exec, and you do real estate as well, and you love doing both things well. And I think that's really important, because most of the people that I interview on this podcast, all of this stuff, we are mostly like real estate professionals, right? This is what we do. This is all we do. This is what we spend our most of our time doing. And so it almost creates this sense of like unattainability. You can't get it because you don't do it full time. What I've loved is that you've been able to essentially build the life that you have in pharmaceuticals, pharmacy, I don't know, in that industry, and then also be able to, at the same time, continue to prioritize what the goal is, or whatever your financial investment goal, because you mentioned it, right? You get into a 401k, and then you get into an IRA, and typically that's where like the trap is, and then the corporate world goes like, they're like, got you here, and then they just keep you there because they got your 401k and all those things. But it seems like you guys kind of pushed past that a little bit, because you maybe created goals or figured out more of what you wanted. And so I'd love to hear even what that process was like. Now, I know you had a condo, then you rented out that condo, but going from a condo to syndications is a big difference. And so I'd love to hear for you so we can talk about it. What is a syndication? And in what cases are syndications most useful? And then how people could even potentially go about those. I know that's a lot to kind of unpack,
Yeah.
but I love the fact that you do both, and this gives you that opportunity.
Yes, doing both is something that's so critically important to me. I talk a lot about doing both, especially in my social media life and publicly to everyone. The fact that I can be in the pharmaceutical industry and have an impact on real people and real patients' lives, and helping them live longer, healthier lives is an enormous gift that I'm blessed to be able to be a part of that. At the same time, in my journey to becoming a real estate investor, I'm also able to help people invest passively into real estate syndications and funds, and help them in another way. That other way is building and protecting their wealth for their families and the generations to come. And not only them, but my family as well, because I invest right alongside of my investors.
Nice.
Our journey has really come as a part of this. As I mentioned, and as you just recalled, we started out with just doing single family rentals. And we were focused on, really, my wife and I, as we became more educated, we started to obtain more of an entrepreneurial spirit. And that entrepreneurial spirit initially was going to lead us to investing in franchises. I remember the moment, Devin, we had two young kids, and at that time, our young kids were getting invited to a lot of birthday party. They're still birthday parties. They're still very young, but relatively speaking, those birthday parties that we were spending our times at was at these trampoline parks,
Mm,
and we were like, oh man, this is phenomenal. I would love to own one of these. And we started exploring that, and we actually got very far in the process of acquiring a local trampoline park. But
nice.
after doing some analysis on the numbers and all the things that were going on, it didn't work out, and that's fine. But when it didn't work out, that passion for exploring our entrepreneurial spirit and building something for our family outside of our W-2 jobs remained. And in that time, I
Mm.
was also doing a lot of reading and listening to books and podcasts. I came across that purple book
The
that
Purple
everyone
Bible.
knows, the Purple Bible, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which
Hmm.
went quickly into Cash Flow Quadrant and the gateway drug that I love to talk about. It started opening my mind to those things. But in parallel to that, I'm listening to every podcast, watching every YouTube video on all things real estate investing. And that wasn't just single family investing and fix and flips. It also I started to get exposed to beyond the turnkey real estate investing. I started to get exposed to real estate syndications. And at that time, this is in like 20, let's fast forward here. This is in 2018, 2019. I'm listening to a couple of guys on the radio, the Real Estate Guys
Hmm.
radio program with Robert Helms and
Hmm.
and, and company. And I'm listening to a guy named Brad Sumrock, and I'm listening to a guy named Michael Blanc, and people that were coming into my radar, but I wasn't really like connected like that with them. I started listening to them, and I'm like, man, this is really fascinating. And what they're saying is that, hey, you don't have to continue you don't have to just graduate from single family to multifamily. You can actually go straight to multifamily. And that thought kind of blew my mind. I was like, no, we got to stick with the game plan. And in that time, Devin, my wife and I, we were going through our game plan and laying things out and saying, okay, in that process of learning and soaking up all this information, we learned about this idea of financial freedom, which up until that point in time, I hadn't heard about financial freedom. And I didn't know anyone, at least not that at that point, that I knew was financially free.
Mm.
But when we learned about the concept of financial freedom and accomplishing financial freedom with real estate, that is something that we really both latched onto.
Nice.
And the reason why is because we could not only work because we needed to, we would be working because we wanted to.
Mm.
And that idea really intrigued both of us. And so we laid out a plan with some advisors along the way in this real estate space. And we saw that the number of single family homes that we would need to acquire to replace our W-2 income and accomplish our financial freedom was a daunting number. And
Yeah,
we
I'm
thought to
sure.
ourselves, how are we going to accelerate that? And then that idea that was plugged into my head by the real estate guys and Brad Sumrock and Michael Blanc about investing passively into real estate syndications, that idea surfaced back up. And my wife and I, we had a discussion about this, and we said, hey, what if we pivot strategies? I know I've been telling you about going down the turnkey single family route, but
Hmm.
what if we pivot strategies and invest passively into syndications? Would you be interested in that? And she's been so supportive and such a great sort of resource for us to bounce ideas off of each other. We agreed on that, and then we've taken off and gotten into the real estate syndication journey, which I'll definitely talk a little bit more about. But I want to pause there to see if you have anything to react to.
No, that's great. And I love that because that walks through the whole journey. And I think an integral part of the journey in that process is that I think doesn't often get talked about is your wife. In that process, you talked about how supportive she was, which was cool. Because I'm sure if you're anything like me or anything like that, that like you get in one thing and you're like, we're gonna go this way, we're gonna go this way, we're gonna go this way, and then you go, you know what? Never mind. Let's just go this way because I think this will do
Yeah.
better. And like that other way seems a lot bigger, right? Because like syndications are apartment complexes, townhomes, development, much larger thing, much larger assets instead of single family, which has its pros and its cons and its risk management and mitigation. So like there's a lot of different things Because like for me, sometimes and please, even like I love this part of the conversation is talking through like where I'm like apartment complexes, unless you have some serious, you get them at a pretty serious discount and have some serious value add, they don't cash flow the best. You're looking at a 5 to 10 year exit that then provides you income plus the tax depreciation. And so, and I may be wrong because it's very interesting for me to hear you go, oh, you know what's not going to do it is the single family houses, but passively investing into syndications will give us that. So like for you, as you, two parts, I'd love to hear about your wife and even maybe a little bit of her background and how that's encouraged and helped you as you guys have worked together, because it sounds like you both are very active in this. But the second part of it is like, okay, like where does that, because I think a lot of people don't understand the you know, the distributions and the model of a syndication and how you would get paid through a syndication. So maybe we can hit on both of those as well.
Sure, definitely do that. And so, so my wife is as both full-time, executives in our careers, and with families and our kids and all of those different things that go on and so many different demands. We're definitely spread as thin as everyone else, but
Yeah.
we work well as a team to
Yeah.
divide and conquer. So as it relates to our real estate investing business that we have, she definitely does help with managing the things behind the scenes, our P&L and all those types of things that
Nice.
she can do more behind the scenes on her time, where I play more of the upfront role and working, building relationships with operators, building relationships with potential investors, etc., to be able to educate them on those things. That's the juice that really that fuels me.
Well,
And
and it sounds like the thing that was most important for that is you guys defined early on what those roles were, because I think a lot of the oh, you work with your wife, a lot of that comes from unmanaged probably expectations and roles, but then also just like a lot of miscommunications, which I'm sure still happens. But it sounds like you guys are very clear. We say like in our company we say clarity is kindness, but then we also say like ambiguity creates anxiety, which leads to resentment, which leads to frustration, which leads to resentment. And it sounds like you guys had a bunch of clarity up front to
yeah.
like alleviate a lot of that ambiguity.
Yes, a lot of clarity and honestly a lot of playing on each other's strengths.
Mm.
The playing on the strengths of my wife and the things that she was actually interested in doing in support of the business was critically important, as well as
Yeah.
the things that I maybe am not the strongest on, but I can share those responsibilities with her or pass them entirely to her, and she can run that aspect of it while I can do the things that I'm truly passionate about. Has been really great. And yes, my wife works in the fashion business, and she's
Okay.
been in that industry for over 20 years as well, leading teams and working on some of the world's most iconic brands. And
Nice.
she has been just a great partner in all of the things that we do. In the real estate aspect, it has been something that she's been just such an immense partner on, because it is taking all this knowledge and understanding that I was soaking in and at a clip that is probably unhealthy in terms of just all of the books, all of the podcasts. And I would take every moment that we would have together in a car together and say, hey, do you want to listen to this podcast? Or hey,
No, I
can
don't
we?
want to listen to that
Exactly.
podcast.
Well, then you're going to listen to me talk about this for the next half an hour, because I want to educate you on what I learned and how
Hmm.
and she recognized how excited I was about these things, and really kind of showed some interest. In that was just really for me very important, because you never want to go down a path where you're unsupported or maybe
Hmm.
unsure about those things. But I would say to those guys that are out there, or gals even, who, if it's the reverse, you want to make sure that you're talking to your partner about these things and sharing your vision, sharing your desires, because that exchange is something that's really helpful.
Yeah.
When it comes to answer your other question, when it comes to real estate, syndications, I'm a believer in all aspects of real estate, Devin. I'll tell everybody, I love single family for its reasons. I
Hmm.
love multifamily. I love ATM funds. I love car washes. I love self storage, and it all comes down to I only have so much liquidity, right?
Yep,
And
that's
so
right.
when it comes down to it for us, when we decided to start our foundation, decided to start our foundation with in first investing passively into real estate syndication, which for the audience that may not be familiar, real estate syndication, as you were alluding to earlier, is just a fancy way of saying it's pooling investors' money together to buy assets larger than what they would be able to on their own. So imagine that, when you're driving through your neighborhood and you see that 200 unit apartment building or apartment or that 100 unit apartment complex that's garden style with all the nice amenities in that little community there that you're driving by, you know, people can get together and form in a syndication, form an entity, and the operators can bring that opportunity to you after they've found it. They've done all the research about it.
Mm-hmm.
They are experts in that market. They're experts in that asset. They know what is net. They know the comparable rents in the market. They know what the opportunity is to do, as you said, add value to it by increasing the income and reducing the expenses. And they bring that in the business plan and their vision for it, and all the reasons why it is a great investment and what are the risks that they see and how they're going to mitigate those risks. They bring that to you and I as passive investors, and they say, hey, Chris, this is it. Here's what we're looking at. Is this something that you might be interested in investing in? And rather than Chris can't buy all 100 units of the apartment complex, but I
Mm-hmm.
can come in and I could be a co-owner with a group of other folks to acquire that asset and get my proportional share from the cash flows,
Mm-hmm.
from the tax benefits, from the sales proceeds when the asset is sold or refinanced. And that is a beautiful thing. I get to be completely hands off and let the experts go ahead and execute that business plan.
Yeah.
When we were in this part of looking at whether we go down the turnkey single family route or we go passive, we like the idea of going down the multifamily passive investing into syndications because of the scalability of it.
Mm-hmm.
We like the opportunity also to not, yes, that we do get some cash flow distributions from those assets. Of course, when we were investing earlier on, when interest rates were lower, the cash on cash returns
A
were
little bit better.
significantly higher than what we're seeing
Yeah.
to today's interest rates environments. However, we are still seeing some, relatively speaking, as it relates to some single families. There may be comparable, but there may be some differences. It all varies depending on how much you're investing as well. But the long story short, we got into this because we wanted to go into it as passive investors and
Mm-hmm.
leverage and lean on the skills, knowledge, and expertise of those operators that were bringing us the deals to be able to help turn that asset around or improve upon it, and then we can just sit back and collect.
Yeah. That's cool. And I love that because it just makes it a lot more attainable for the regular person to be able to come into a deal. And there's a difference, right? So like I have a fund. My fund allows us to do in a plethora of um, mostly single family. It does allow us to also move into other assets if we want to. One of the big ones for us is also boutique hotels. But the difference between more of a fund and a syndication is that a syndication typically is geared towards one specific asset, job, whatever, right? And so that's kind of what you're doing. So for you, and I'd love even just because like, so how many syndications or funds have you been a part of or done? And for you, is it like you and 100 other people, or is it typically you and 5 or 6 other people? Like what would a syndication look like? And as well as like what could your involvement be? Because some people are like, well, I like to learn
Yeah.
a little bit, and some
Oh
people
yeah.
are like, nah, just invest my money. I don't want to hear a word about it.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's great, and I think it's such a powerful question because in the journey of becoming a passive investor, one of the other things that we saw as being a real solid in terms of investing passively was the opportunity to learn as
Hmm.
well. Because in this journey of me consuming all of this content and really geeking out, as people say, I became super passionate about finding out who Chris Price is
Hmm.
outside of being a husband, a father, a son, a brother, and a pharmaceutical executive, but also who Chris Price is in terms of what his passions are. And I became to realize that real estate investing was a major passion of mine, so much so that beyond just going through what the everyday person is just thinking about going and investing passively in a deal, and that could be completely hands off for them, that's totally fine. In fact, that's the majority of people,
Yeah.
they want to do that. But I wanted to go further. I wanted to know how this business worked. How could I have an impact? And what opened me up to all of these things at the time that we started passively investing, excuse me, I also was attending real estate conferences and learning and hearing and seeing, hey, you not only you can be a passive investor, which is awesome to be a passive investor, and you're scaling and you're diversifying outside of the stock market and the market based assets
Hmm.
into real estate for all the reasons that we can talk about. But then you also have an opportunity to create a business. And I'll
Hmm.
circle back to what we were talking about with respect to our entrepreneurial spirit. What lined up to me when I learned about how real estate syndications could provide us the opportunity to be business owners as well as investors. It was powerful because now I'm thinking about myself and what I'm able to do with all of the information that I've been able to learn and then
Yeah.
formally invest in my education to be able to go and become an expert in this space. That then led me to be able to say, okay, now how can I help others in my industry and in my wife's industry and others, our friends and family? How can I help them also diversify their portfolios and build wealth with real estate as we're working towards doing? And
Yeah.
that really is the spark that lit into me in terms of the additional reasons as to why it made sense for us to invest into the syndications and scale from there. And we've been going into it. So in terms of the numbers, we're in 6 deals. We've invested in 4 deals as passive investors, 2 as active investors,
Nice.
working on partnering with the best operators in the best markets and helping people grow their wealth passively.
Nice. That's cool. I love it. I love it. I want to actually take a break real quick because I want to dive into, and this is really funny because you're on a roll and you're killing it, and we're gonna pick this back up. But I actually want to dive into one of my favorite segments on the show that we do called "What the Gram." Okay, and so what what the gram is what the gram is a little bit of a dive into your social media, Chris, where I'm gonna show you some pictures that you have, and I would love for you to explain them. Okay.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So, Chris, this picture, let's go ahead and dive into this picture right here, man. So, this looks like a cool picture of you and your family, which I think is also a really important part of what we are talking about. Oh, can you not see it? Oh, hold up.
I can see the thumbnails in one
No.
screen.
No, give me a second. You got to see it. All right. Here we go. Boom. This picture right here with you and your family, man. I love to hear
Wow.
like I just even think of like what this trip is and what I've known from following you is like you do this often, stuff like this often. And so I'd love to hear about this.
Yeah, so an exciting one. So we typically go. My family and my wife is from Massachusetts originally, and so
Nice.
we vacation in Cape Cod, Massachusetts every year for the past 12 years, essentially,
Wow.
except for this year, because this year what we decided to do was get COVID at that time, and
As you do.
we
That's right.
it was we were all so bummed, and we decided that once we just weren't sure if if our symptoms were contagious or not, we decided to stay home and have a staycation and keep outdoors.
Nice.
One of those outdoors things that we have around us here is a park that's called Boundless Adventures. And Boundless Adventures is like a ropes course with all different levels that allows individuals to go out there and challenge themselves. Sometimes you're scaling 30, 40 feet above the ground or even higher, and you're
Mm.
tethered to different harnesses and all those things. But my wife and we brought the kids out there maybe a year or two ago and had a great experience. And so when we thought about, okay, what are we going to do now that
Mm.
we have the time off, but we're not going to Cape Cod? What are we going to do? Well, we took the opportunity this time to bring them out to the ropes course, and we got out there and we got active and we were climbing around, and it's just to see the sense of accomplishment on the kids'
Yeah.
faces. They go through those things and face challenges that that can be scary. The thing that I want folks to realize is that whether it's your own personal journey or the things that you can teach your kids in their own journey on life, that things aren't going to be easy. You're going to be faced with obstacles, and you're going to be faced with maybe talking yourself out of something.
Mm,
But what this ropes course teaches people to do is to have that faith, and to take those steps, and to take that leap and to go forward. And when they see what's on the other side is even better than what they had anticipated, that sense of joy and accomplishment and I can do it is something that we
mm.
believe will benefit our kids for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I love that. And I love the fact that it ties into honestly everything you guys are doing and the example that you're being as parents and entrepreneurs and pushing to do what you are passionate about, to show that you can do that. It's one of those things like for me, it's really cool because so we've got foster kids and we've adopted them, which means historically and theoretically their life would look completely different than if they weren't adopted. And it's so cool because I'll be anywhere. I'll be in front, but like I'll FaceTime my kids and I'll be in front of a house, and my daughter will just be like, "Daddy, are you buying that house?" And it's just like it's so cool because like I would have never at her age been like, "You just buy houses." It's a thing. Like
Right.
it's easy. We're going to like I take my kids. We're going to the courthouse. We're buying houses. Like that's
Right.
just what you do, and it's not some like far off, non attainable thing to build generational wealth or to buy properties or do these things. It's a regular occurrence because we've instilled in them at this young age that it's possible. And
That's
that
right.
seems like something that people will do. People will. They'll spend all their life trying to purchase a property. And for my kids, they will work hard for it and they'll understand what it takes to do that. But it's not something that's way outside of the realm of possibility now. It's something that's attainable, which means that the things, and I say this, that just the floor of their limiting beliefs just continue to rise up. And I think that that's just so important.
So
Um,
important, so powerful.
yeah, love it, love it. Okay, this next one, we spoke previously, briefly about this, but I love this photo of you with the dreads, with the football uniform. What is this saying?
Oh man, so this is Chris Price, what is it, 2000, 2001 perhaps.
Nice.
And so this is me, a young Chris Price, who was playing college football at the time, with at Marist College, which our alma mater is named, or excuse me, our mascot is named the Red Foxes. And I'll get to that in a moment.
Yep.
But I'm taking a picture there. But during that time, man, Ricky Williams and Edrin James and some of the other great athletes out there, football players out there, they were rocking the dreadlocks, and I was like, you know what? I'm a college kid. I don't want to be spending my money. I made this decision my freshman year, end of my freshman year. I'm like, I don't want to be spending my money on haircuts anymore. I'm just gonna grow dreads. And so I went ahead and I started growing my dreadlocks, and I came back into it that my sophomore junior year, and that's where I started to get that. And they got actually really long, like down to my shoulders, and I had them for years, and it was a part of me and who I was. But we Marist and the Red Foxes and the fellow Red Foxes that are out there, and some of which may be even listening to this, I'll tell you, um, that school had such a great impact on us. I mentioned to you before that's where my wife and I met.
Mm-hmm.
We met some of our greatest friends that we still have to this day. And when we thought about this entrepreneurial journey that we're on today and what we would name our company, we decided to name it Red Fox Multifamily. And because of that was a place that had such an impact on us, and we wanted to make sure that we could use that as our platform jumping off here to name our company out after that, and pay homage to that great place that was just so influential. And since then, we still remain so connected to many of our friends from Marist. We've had kids together. We have our kids playing all together. We travel together. We do all sorts of different things, and
Nice.
still to this day, some of these are the strongest relationships that we've had, and it just is so meaningful to us. And we both still work on trying to give back to that place that has had such a great impact on the both of us, so that we can continue that great institution, the prominence of it, and help it continue to grow even more so.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I understand saving the money. There was no NIL back then.
That's
Not
right.
got no NIL money for haircuts back
That's
then.
right.
In the
and
dorms
and
chopping
going
it
and
off.
going to your boy's room to get a haircut was not necessarily the safest thing. What you walked out with might not have been what you wanted.
That's the truth, man. Just the less risk to just let it grow.
That's right.
I actually think and you played athletics at a high level, and I played Division 1 baseball, and I remember I had a coach, and he told me, Devin, it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter. You could be the best player out here. You will never play if you can't compete. And I think that there is honestly, I think there's a direct correlation between high level and high achieving achievers, successful people, and athletics. Partially because like there's a couple things. In athletics, you're taught to fight hard, like to practice hard, to grind, to put in the work for the hope of possibly winning a championship. But in
Yes.
the same way, you will go to practice, you will fight hard, and 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 still push it on an 0-12 team for the hope of winning one game. And so like it's just a mindset that is, I think that you athletes uniquely have, that have conditioned them for this type of work. And so
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear for you, even just quickly, like what do you feel like athletics has like, was your wife an athlete as well? Like what do you feel like athletics, like the role that has played in you? Because it sounds like you did it at a high level, and you were really good at a high level, which is cool.
Yes. I was really good at a high level. Yes, my wife did play sports as well through high school, and she was a
Nice.
dancer through college. But
Yeah.
yes, I played at a high level, to small little Division 1 school, but I was a pretty good player. And I wanted to. One of the reasons why I went there is because I would have the opportunity to play more than if I went to some big university somewhere,
Hmm.
and perhaps sit the bench. But that decision proved to be well, because I got an opportunity to go and try to play professionally for some teams, which was a great honor. And one of the things that I learned along that time was that how good I wasn't.
Mm,
And what I mean by that
that's
is
good.
going out there and competing, and being passionate about things, but then also seeing that there are other people that are better than you out there. And that was humbling, going through that experience of not making it, but still thinking back and reflecting and saying, no, I didn't make it, but I had the opportunity to do so many things that so many
Mm,
others can't, or would not, or did not have the opportunity to do. Was an awesome experience. To your
man.
point about what athletics has meant to me in my life, the fact that when you talk about the resilience and the determination, that putting in that work and that grind, that is something that translates so well to an
Hmm.
entrepreneur. The need to be consistent and focus on the right things, and not only focus on the right things, but make sure that you can work with a team, whether that's a team of one or two, or you have other people that you're sourcing in to be a part of your team. Those things are so important, because you need to rely on your teammates and have that trust. You need to learn how to communicate. You need to have that mental fortitude and that resilience to be able to work through things when it's not going well. And so many things for folks, they may not have that 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 ability to, or that desire to want to stick things out. But I think
Mm,
as an athlete, or in a former athlete, when you learn to work through things and know that, hey, this grind, this sweat that I'm going through now, the money's not rolling in yet, but I know
that's
that
right.
if I could remain consistent and I stay focused, then the and I do the right things, things are going to happen the way that they need to happen for my not only for my effort but by the grace of God. And
Mm-hmm.
those things are the things that I really trust and believe in. And there's so many lessons that can be learned from sports. And I'll end by saying this, that when we talk about the kids, whether my kid's the best player on the team or they're in the middle of the pack or the worst player on the team, that doesn't matter in the end. What matters to me is that they're out there, they're supporting their teammates, they're
Mm-hmm.
encouraging one another, they're
That's
learning
right.
when their teammate confronts them about something, about, hey, you didn't guard this person, or weren't in the right position. These are things that your kids may react to those things, but rather than saying, oh well, Johnny was wrong for saying that to you, no, these are what did you feel about that, and what did you learn about that, and how did you address it, or did you not address it? And
Mm-hmm.
is that a teachable moment for you as a parent to be able to help your kid understand how they should encounter those types of situations to navigate them? So I can go on and on about this, but I'm so passionate about sports and what they mean to
Yep,
for
no doubt.
helping them grow.
Ah, that's awesome. I love it. And I was gonna talk about one more photo. Because speaking of sports, it looks like you are. Looks like you're a Knicks fan. You take some. This I love this. I love that it looks like you spend a lot of time at these games with people that you really enjoy, and I think it's important. And so I don't know. I just wanted you to chat even just a little bit about this because it's
Yeah,
collage. Because you wouldn't have put it over. You wouldn't put it on here if you didn't care about this. You know.
that's right. And so, yes, and moving, you mentioned Greensboro earlier. I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina, and the
Nice.
Charlotte Hornets, Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, Muggsy Bogues, those
Yeah.
guys back in the day, a huge influence on me, and I still have a passion for the Charlotte Hornets. But moving up to the New York region where I live now, I live about a half an hour outside of New York City in a place called White Plains, New York. And grew up in the other part of my life in Connecticut. You start to learn about these things, and one of those things that you learn about is the New York Knicks and the passion for the New York Knicks. And I moved up and around the
You
time where
gotta
it
have
was.
passion for it to
That's
follow
right.
the New York Knicks.
That's a true fact. And I grew up around a time where, we came up here around the time of Patrick Ewing and John
Spike Lee.
Starks and Spike Lee, and he was still there at most of the games, and all
Yep.
of these things. And what you come to learn on your journey here is that, we talked about sports and be in the camaraderie of sports that it brings also. And when you come to this area, you start to learn that, hey, there's a lot of fans of the New York Knicks out here, and things that you have casual conversations with folks, and you're talking about these things and how you want to be able to
Hmm.
connect with people. So just very quickly, in these photos, you have some of my
Yeah.
siblings in these photos. My sister, my brother, my dad is in one of these photos. One of my brothers from another mother, as I say, is in this photo. Some other great friends that I've had a chance to connect with that I know are
Yeah,
Knicks
that's cool.
fans. My family, bringing them there to share in these experiences and kind of disconnect from the rest of the world and go and be a part of the entertainment and expose so many things at these games. It's just a great opportunity, man. So I could go on
Yeah.
and on about these things, but it's just been a great opportunity to have these season tickets and then bring some of my friends and family to them. And I'm looking forward to doing that again this season. So if you're up here, you and me, we got a
I
game,
might
man.
need to.
Yeah,
I might need to, man.
that's
Well,
right.
and that's cool, and it's cool, and I love that you do that, and I love that you bring your family, and I love that you talked about the fact that it disconnects from kind of the grind of what everything's going on. You get to kind of be almost in a different world, regardless of the outcome of the game or whatever. You're spending time with people, and so I'm curious. I know since you have now started some syndications, which means you probably also raise capital for them. Do you end up taking some people that you raise capital with or from to the games as well? And that's kind of a good way to build those relationships to raise capital for the syndications.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I certainly do. Folks that are either exploring it or
Hmm.
folks that are current investors, being able to bring them to the game and bond with them is just a great way to do things. Now, this upcoming season, there's actually an investor of mine who's now become a friend. Who we have a mutual friend who connected us. He's a fan of the Chicago Bulls. So I'm
Uh
like,
oh.
okay, now I'm not sure how this is going to go, but we're going to go to a game together and and celebrate. But I say all that because the importance of it really, Devin, is that yes, we do get a chance to spend time with folks and get to know them more, and they get to know me more, and who I am as a person. At the end of the day, me bringing an opportunity to invest in real estate and build your wealth is one thing, but I'm a person just like you are, and I enjoy things and being entertained and going and rooting for my team just like you do. And I think having those commonalities, being able to see me in a more personal element, and me this same seeing these
Mm-hmm.
individuals in
That's right.
another more personal element, is a great way for us to get connected, and to just really grow that trust in those relationships. So it is definitely valuable that way, and I'm looking forward to being able to connect with both existing investors and new potential investors in the future games.
Heck yeah. I was listening to another fund manager, and he was talking about how they raised capital, and what they ended up doing was buying a season, and this cost like 40 grand. So it's nothing like crazy. It's not like a what you would not what everybody would do. And this is like the first time they tried to raise capital for their fund. They bought season box tickets to the Utah Jazz, and what they did was they went and they would actually go in and call the assistant of every major CEO in the city and go, hey, we've got box tickets, we'd like to invite the CEO and his wife out to the game tonight. Parking's taken care of, food's taken care of, they can just come. And they said they got way more yeses on that than just trying to be like, hey, can we get a meeting with this person? And they raised, now that person has like a deca-billion-dollar fund, but they raised most of their actually all their capital in the first year that way, which is kind of crazy. And it's crazy what, sporting events, athletics, and things like that can do, and getting to know people. I also think sports help me to get to know how, like, what even type of people I want to work with, because
Sure.
you see how they are when they're being competitive, and it exposes a lot, which is really interesting. So
Sure.
I thought that was really cool to hear them say that.
No,
Now,
absolutely. It exposes you to so many things.
yeah, for sure. Now, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit to one thing you talked about early on, and you mentioned this very briefly, but it caught my attention a little bit, where you had talked about the fact that you and your wife continued to invest through 2008, which was like, I mean, the atomic bomb for everybody in any kind of real estate investing at all. So for you guys to continue to invest in it, one, shows strong convictions in the generational aspect of what real estate is and the opportunity there. But also, how has that affected how you invest now? Because now you're in charge of investing other people's money as well in a syndication on a project that I kind of hate to say this, but like, if you invested in a syndication 3 years ago, used a bridge loan in the hopes to refinancing, now their refis are calling due. There's a lot of syndications that are struggling right now. And so, what is like, I'd love to hear kind of how 2008 probably has helped you in this kind of season right here. I don't know, maybe, but that's
Yeah.
just kind of my thought.
Yeah, so I wanna make sure I clarify, and pardon me if I didn't communicate this clearly. So in 2008, we were investing, but we weren't investing in real estate. We had our single family condo that we were
Yeah, you
still
had the
living
condo,
in.
you kept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we kept, well, we lived there up until 2012.
Oh,
So,
nice.
but in that time, what were we investing in? We were investing in our 401ks and IRAs, which, like everyone else, took a real big dive during that
Yeah.
time. And again, but it's connected to your question and what you're asking, because in that time when we're thinking about, okay, how do we protect ourselves from this volatility? How can all the
Hmm.
things that we had been investing in since we've been in corporate America, and putting our everything in, and the company match and all this, that, and the other thing, and then in one day it goes virtually away, and how could that be? And so the
Hmm.
motivating factor from there, in terms of being able to get us on this real estate journey, Devin, was really looking at, okay, well, you how can we diversify from that? And it made the decisions, and then how that shaped us made our decisions in terms of focusing on asset classes that, and investing in real assets, that tried and true asset
Hmm.
of real estate, which has helped made more people millionaires and billionaires than any other asset class in the world. Well, that made the decision easier for us when we took the decision in 2012 to go into real estate investing, as it were in that time as single family home investors. But but as we continue to learn and evolve, we then took that and scaled it into the syndication business.
Nice.
But your point is a valid one. It really helped us in terms of shaping who we are and our investor DNA and what we wanted to invest in, and realizing that what for as investors, that once you get exposed to some of these things, that you don't have to just invest your money into stocks, bonds, funds, 401ks, etc. You can invest in other asset classes. And
Yep.
in addition to that, what I learned on this journey as we've been going through and become an expert in is that you can also invest your retirement accounts passively into real estate as well.
That's right.
So you just don't have to put that money in that company sponsored 401k. You can take a portion of that money if you want to leave some of it there and put some of it in the self-directed IRA or solo 401k so that you can invest that in real estate. You can do that too.
That's awesome. That's good. And I love that, you've put that safeguard in there to know convictionally, like, you're going to stand by this because you believe that to be the tried and true thing. Regardless, like, and the one thing that I do know, and this is the one thing that makes real estate so good, is it's just very cyclical. Like, it's very predictable because it's very cyclical, and that's a really good asset to invest in, honestly, because you can
That's right.
hedge against the downturns, and prepare for them, and then you reap the rewards of the upswings. And so
That's right.
it's really cool.
That's
Now,
right.
for you to go this long, to be in your sixth syndication, there had to have, it's not luck. It's not luck to consistently be lucky at successfully engaging in syndications, apartment complex, and doing these things. You've had to, along the way, probably created some sort of infrastructure, some sort of systems and processes, because, like, granted, it is not your main thing that you do. It's a big thing that you do. And so you want to do it well. And if I know anything about you, you operate with excellence, right? You operate with excellence in pharmaceutics, but then you also do that in the real estate world. And so I would imagine that you've created some sort of system and structure of processes to make sure that you could do this time after time, as long as the opportunities continue to arise.
Yeah, that's right. And so I love that question. And really, investing in systems is something that is critically important, especially for someone for an
Mhm.
entrepreneur like me who does have a busy family life, a busy career, and I'm also trying to help others invest passively in real estate as a part of my entrepreneurial spirit. So being able to have different systems in place to be able to scale my business and manage the rest of my life was critically important. So one of the first systems that I invested in was a system on, you mentioned it earlier. I'm not just dealing with my money,
Mhm.
I'm dealing with other people's money, but people that I work with, people that are my friends, people that are my family members, people that are in my neighborhood. And I did not want to take that lightly. I do not take that lightly at
Mhm.
all. The gravity of the influence and power that I have, and responsibility that I have with having other people's money who are trusting and confiding in me, to be able to invest in assets that I'm betting, that I'm no, betting the operator, betting the deal itself, and whether it's good or bad. And yes, they're going to do their own due diligence, but heavily they're relying and trusting in me to do that heavy lift. And I take that responsibility very seriously. But I
Mhm.
needed to be able to do that at an expert level. So before getting into this one of the systems that we invested in was an education system, and that education system and mastermind was the Michael Blanc Dealmaker Mastermind Community. And in that program, we were able to get formal education, get certification, have a coach and a mentor who has done this before, not just once, twice, three times, or or more, but a coach and mentor who is a professional full-time real estate investor, as you mentioned, like yourself and others who
Hmm.
are out there doing what it is that I'm trying to do, who have stepped on the landmines already, and then now are able to teach me and help me learn and help educate me on what to do and what not to do along that journey. That was super powerful. But in that time also, I started to become more passionate about other aspects of this business, that is real estate investing, in particular real estate syndications and funds. And in that time, one of the things that I became really passionate about was that of investor relations and capital raising. I realized that yes, I understand the importance of underwriting and managing the asset, and calling the brokers and doing all those things and coming up with the business plan and all of that stuff, and it's all great, but that wasn't where my passions were. And in this thing called syndications and funds, there are different players that are needed to make the team work. One
Hmm.
of the most important roles or teammates that you can have is one of a capital raiser, someone who can help you with raising the capital, the equity that's needed to acquire that asset. And from my point of view, one of the opportunities that I recognize is that being a person who is in an industry with a lot of well-to-do people, with a lot of resources, but don't have a lot of education in terms of being able to know about this type of asset class. I wanted to invest in a system to be able to learn how to maximize my ability in raising capital from other people, and
Nice.
that raising capital online, and then raising capital in person, or being able to nurture those people to a place where we can have a dialogue like this, talk about
Hmm.
the benefits and risk, and decide if they are open to investing passively or not. So I've invested in a system with a person. I hope you don't mind me mentioning the company. It's Yakov Smart and the Investor Attraction Academy, and that
Okay.
system helped me. Really is helping me, and we with masterminds and education around the best practices around
Nice.
navigating through these things, which has been truly enormous. The other system that I noticed that I needed along the way was the need for help and support to be able to
Mm.
manage all of these things that go on, in addition to managing investors and being a part of multiple syndication deals and analyzing those deals, or being on investor calls, and jumping on meetings with my co-GPs, or
Hmm.
other thing. Or and I also run a very popular meetup that's over 1,000 members. It's virtual
Nice.
right now. I invested in a system thankfully, when one of the things that you and I talked about early in our conversations was the fact that, hey, not only are you a real estate investor, but you also have a company of VAs, and VAs that are based out of, or virtual assistants for the uninitiated, that they are based out of Egypt, and they have all these different skills and capabilities. And this is something that you're very passionate about. And when we had a dialogue, it was just so timely, because I just didn't know where it was all going to come from, and if I had to keep burning it from both ends as it was. And so that has been a tremendous system to be able
Nice.
to literally in less than a week. It could have been a day, but I think I was the person that slowed things down.
Sorry.
Having someone identified, trained, ready to go and support me was absolutely phenomenal. And now we have an individual that has just been so great in helping me manage my meetup, and doing some other important things as it relates to helping me get my brand and my resources out to the community, which has been so amazing. And the last system that I talk to people about is really about being able to invest in systems with respect to email marketing and nurturing. So a lot of content. I produce a lot of content myself in terms of social media posts, and being able to reach out to people via my list of contacts that I have in my email platform. But being able to nurture people on an ongoing basis, and keeping them educated and informed, and being present in them, not when just when I have a deal, but omnipresent at all times across
Yeah.
all channels is something that is really important to me. And so I invested in a system, in a system with Jason Wright, who also I know you may be aware of from Raise Masters. He and his company, the Intentionally Inspiration company that's focused on email marketing automations, helped me set up various different campaigns so that I can, while I'm sleeping, these campaigns and emails can be working and nurturing and educating the people that are in my community. So there's
Yeah.
just so much that goes on there. And by investing in these systems, what entrepreneurs need to know is that it can help you scale much faster than if you're trying to do all those things alone.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I feel like we could talk for hours. There's other stuff I have written down here that I'm like, man, we should talk about this. But I think we're kind of coming to the time, and so, man, I'd love to, man, just to kind of close it off, ask this question for you, man. If there is one thing that you could talk about, let's say that you were never on a podcast ever again, you were never on anything ever again. This is the last opportunity you had to share whatever you would like for the next couple of minutes. What would it be? Like, what would you like to leave the listeners with? And it can literally be anything. What would it be, man?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question so much, and it has been such a. I feel like we could literally sit here and talk all day,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you for this opportunity. But one of the things that this journey has been for me has been very rewarding in many aspects. The financial part of it is one thing, but in the journey of learning who you become
Mm.
as a part of that is something that is so extremely powerful. And what I've learned about about who I am as a person is, as I mentioned before, yes, I'm a loving husband and father and son and brother, but I'm also and I'm yes, I'm a pharmaceutical executive. Yes, I have a big impact and having an impact on patients' lives and work that I do. But I also am someone who now has the opportunity to help others by helping them invest passively into real estate that can help them build wealth and generational wealth. And that I see as being a blessing to others.
Yeah.
There's scripture in the Bible that talks about being a blessing to others. And when I thought about this and think about who I am and how can I make a difference in people's lives beyond just, what do I want my tombstone to read one day? Do I want it to read that Chris was a really good employee at his job and he did really
Mm.
good at his job? Or, Chris lived in a nice house or
Mm.
whatever? Or what now will, with what I'm able to do and have a at scale and impact to people and for people, will that have an effect that is transformative for others is something that's really powerful. And I take it very seriously. And that part of being a blessing to others is something that means a lot to me. And that doesn't necessarily mean me always helping people invest passively into real estate assets. It could be me being a blessing to others by helping to educate them, just turning the light bulb on to, hey, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to invest just in your 401k and set them on a gateway on their own. Or, hey, maybe encouraging people about one of the other things that I'm passionate about, which is cash value life insurance and being able to use your life insurance policy as a dual asset to invest in real estate, other things that I can talk about. But the point is that by having these interactions, it allows me to find a way to be a blessing to others, whether that's in the big ways or in small ways. And I think that's something that I want to be able to leave the world with.
Oh, I love that, man, and I appreciate that about you, and I'm thankful that that is your heart, and it shows in everything you do, man. And so, thankful for your time here. I appreciate you. Where can people find you, especially if they want to reach out to you, invest with you, learn about your meetup, your community, and what you got going on, man?
Yes, well, people can find all of that information on our website, redfoxmultifamily.com. They can also reach out to me on social media. Specifically, I'm most active on LinkedIn. Just find me, Christopher Price, and my company name is Red Fox Multifamily. You can find me there. On excuse me, on all social media. So I'm looking forward to getting connected with everyone. Please do reach out to me. I know a lot of people, and I'll just say this one last thing, Devin. A lot of people listen to these podcasts, and sometimes they get a little excited, and they're like, "Oh, I'll call, I'll email, and I'll drop their line," and they don't. Take that.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those people. I took the leap. I called
Yep.
everybody. I wanted to learn from them. Take the opportunity. I'm happy to connect with you, even if it's just to dish a little bit and share. Please reach out and call me, or reach out to me and connect online. Looking forward to it.
Heck yeah. Well, thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate you and your time, man. It's been incredible. The value you've given, the insight has been tremendous. I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate you too, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, good, man. That was awesome.
Awesome.
Heck yeah.
That
Great
was
job,
great.
man.
Thank you
Killed
very
it.
much.
Yeah. I got a question. So for you, do you do any, like, do you do, because you keep mentioning, you say, sorry, so much smiling. You mention, and you say like, syndications and funds. Do you do any like funds, or are you just a
Yeah,
syndication?
so I'm moving. I'm going to be moving into funds, and something that I wanted
Yeah,
to
you
share
should
with you.
be.
So yeah, absolutely. So I've been my mentor actually and I are having a conversation about a fund. He has a fund right now through the Avestor platform. Have you heard
Oh
of it?
yeah, Investor's awesome.
Are you
I've
using
been
them?
thinking. So I have not used them. We actually. So we just started our fund. So a little
Yep.
context: we just started our fund. It actually is not even filed yet because my attorney freaking sucks.
Oh,
But I have I wrote our PPM, and so I wrote
oh,
it, and then I sent it to him, and I was like, "Hey, kind of take a look at this." And he was like, "This looks fantastic." And so he was like, "Just give me like a 5K retainer, and then I'll make the changes we need, and we can file it." And he just is so slow, and has
wow.
not yet filed it. And so he's made some changes, not many, just made it a little bit more consistent. And so it's still not filed, but I've got about 700K in the fund, committed and wired
Nice.
in,
Nice.
which I'm thankful for. And we just finished our first our first quarter, which we only returned like 1 or 2%. And then our next quarter, we're returning like 30% in one
Wow.
quarter. In one quarter.
Wow.
And
Oh,
it's
congratulations, man.
well, I'm excited and I'm learning a ton, and I'm trying because I'm still trying to raise capital and figure all that stuff out. So I feel like I can learn a lot from you because I never was in a career that was like I just never had a lot of. So I'm just kind of learning how to raise capital and kind of going from there. And I'm a 506B, so I can't quite go the Hunter Thompson model and
Yep.
do the webinars and all that stuff yet. But I am going to close subscription and go to a C, and then I'll do all that stuff. But right now I'm still a B, so I'm still learning, man, and it's been good. But so since I created my own PPM, I didn't use Avestor because they created PPM for you.
Yep.
And so I just interviewed Juniper Square. I don't know yet. I actually might talk to Avestor and see what it would look like just to come in and use their platform and
Yep.
not have them put together a PPM. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But
Oh
yes,
yeah.
that's a long answer to the Avestor question.
No, so my mentor is using Avestor platform. We talked about collaborating on being able to essentially join. Me joining his fund, and so
Nice.
essentially my me partnering up with him, driving my investors, and we would then share in this fund. And my focus is really on being able to drive investors to that. And I
So
was one
you'd
of
be the
the
capital raiser.
That's right. About
Yep.
focus on the capital
Good,
raising
man.
aspect of it and driving people. So there's three key sources that I'm using, and then you and I can definitely dive deeper into this at another time. I'm looking at, of course, I'm start my at my W-2. A lot of people come on to these programs and talk about leaving their W-2. I don't have any interest of leaving their W-2. Here's why. It has been the probably the lead, it is not probably it is the leading source of investors that I have into my deals,
Wow.
because people are seeing what I'm doing on social media, and they're seeing what I'm posting, and I see me in the office, or they'll message me, "Hey Chris, I saw this yesterday about this. I'd love to learn more about you about real estate investing. Can you tell me more?" Just yesterday, I had lunch with a colleague, and he's like, "Hey, I've been looking at your stuff, and we've been going back and forth for like a month now." And he's like, "I talked to my wife, and she's really comfortable with me investing with you." And I'm like,
Let's go.
it's phenomenal." But so where I'm going with this, the main source that I'm what I'm going working on, and there's a guy named Daniel Holmland. He is in this business also, but he started a real estate investor club at his W-2, and he works for Intel. I'm looking at doing something very similar at
That's
my
cool.
company to be able to drive those folks and educate them. It's no pitching of deals, but educating them. I'm the person that with the platform, and just purely by proximity, seen as the thought leader on these things. And then of course some of those people will draft off and invest alongside of me. I've talked to a couple of executives in the space thus far, or in my company thus far, and they're supportive of this. So I'm
That's
going to bring it
cool,
to
man.
HR soon and be able to set that. That's number one. Number two is I'm also leveraging that LinkedIn program through Yakov Smart. His whole program is focused on nurturing it, or building relationships with investors through LinkedIn and through automations, and then through those automations, ultimately it leads them to a phone call like this where we're meeting virtually and kind of gauging their interest. And then if they're like, oh, in a 15-minute call, and I'm vetting them, if they're
Yeah.
interested, that they then say, yeah, this is something that I'm interested in, let's learn more. I then set up a follow-up call, an hour-long call, and I bring them through the whole deal on how syndications work and or funds work, and then I kind of break it down from there. And the third thing that I'm doing and the reason why I mentioned a lot about Marist College is that Marist College is one of those academic institutions where there's a lot of wealthy people that go there or
That is
send their
cool.
kids to school there. And one of the things that I've done a tremendous amount of research on, and you should do this too at UNCG, is there are real estate clubs that are started from these different academic institutions. Some schools, like for example Rutgers University, Columbia University, they actually have dedicated real estate schools that where they're teaching people how to do private equity, real estate, and those types of
Nice.
things. But other schools they don't, but they have real estate clubs. Cornell University is one of those schools that I learned about this about a couple years ago. So the idea there is being able to create a platform through Cornell University, where, or similar to Cornell University, where I can create a real estate investor club, and working
Yeah,
to be able to
that's
bring
cool.
people in. So I'm exploring that and leveraging all of those funnels essentially to be able to siphon them into a fund at some point in time.
That's awesome. Well, if that fund doesn't work out for him, you can come and join my club fund. Let me tell you, my distribution waterfall is insane.
Oh
And so
man,
it allows our fund, like, and this is not a pitch or anything.
yeah.
But like, so we do bro, it's wild. We return such high returns because we get such deeply discounted properties, and
Yep.
we make so much money on our flips. Like,
Nice.
we're gonna have like, so out of, for instance, out of right now, $630,000 is invested into the fund. We're going to return almost 800K in profit.
Holy hell! Wow.
And
Wow.
here's how our distribution waterfall is. Because like the pref doesn't even matter at that point. It's 8 to 12%. So 8, 10, 12 depending on the investment amount. And then we do a 2% catch up. So we don't even do a 2% performance. 8 to
Yep.
12, 2% catch up. And then we do an 80-20 split up to a 20% IRR return. And then we do a 50-50 split after
I
that.
love that.
Bro,
Oh.
bro.
Oh my goodness.
It's insanity. So like we run the numbers. I'll show you the numbers right now. I'll show you these numbers right now. Look at this. So like let's say, where am I? Where am I? Where am I? It's okay. I'll just tell you. So like let's say conservatively we do a $550,000 profit, and then it's almost, I think it's like 300 and something goes to the fund, like
Yep.
goes back into the fund, and it returns our investors like 30%. They're freaking out. They're crapping
Awesome.
their pants in one quarter. In one quarter,
Wow.
they're crapping their pants,
Yep.
and then it returns to the GPs like 200 and something $1,000. That like, I mean, our overhead is like nothing. So then it just is like, how do I split this with my partners? So it's wild, bro. So
Oh,
our distribution waterfall is pretty nice, and we've got a pretty good thing going. So I'm excited because it literally will. My life will be changed next quarter, and I'm very thankful.
well,
I'm
that's
thankful.
beautiful.
The Lord has been very gracious and good to
Amen
us,
to
and
that.
I'm
Amen
very
to
thankful
that.
for it. And
Yeah.
so it's really exciting. We get to serve a lot of people, and then we get to like our fund. We really, because I fostered, so we that's a really big push that we have is for foster care and supporting that. And
Absolutely.
it's
Are you
cool.
connected with Whitney Sewell and those guys too?
Mm-mm.
So Whitney Sewell, his name of his company is Life Bridge Capital, and they focus on adoption,
Nice.
and it's very prominent about every like more than half or half of their proceeds from their investments goes um, towards adopting children.
Wow.
And the name of his podcast, it's probably one of the most successful podcasts in all of real estate investing, but definitely a multifamily. Is called the Real Estate Syndication Show with Whitney
Mm.
Sewell. And you'll see they do daily episodes. So he has like something like 1,400 or 1,500 daily episodes. He has a whole part of his business that he's built out
Yeah.
now is that he's gotten so good. They have gotten, excuse me, so good at building out these shows. He now offers that service to other folks trying to start podcasts. But it's absolutely incredible what they have going on. You should definitely talk to him
I will.
about that, because I think, and you probably will end up being a
Oh,
guest
that's
on
cool.
with everything that you're doing. But you're doing big stuff, bro. I'm so proud of you, man. Keep up the great
Oh,
work.
I appreciate you, man. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for you trusting us in Cortec. I'm thankful for your friendship and excited for you. And I mean, I look forward to getting together again soon.